David, I'm super stoked to have you on.
Stoked to be on.
It's
I'm
your
excited.
first solo episode with me.
I know. I'm excited.
It's like a milestone,
Yeah. Oh
because
yeah.
you were on a little round table that I had. So if any of you have listened to my episode about personal trainers from FCA that have grown six-figure businesses, you probably heard from David on that one, but that episode was almost 8 months ago at this point.
Oh wow. That's crazy.
Like, what is
This year's
happening?
been it's been flying and it's been going slow. It's
I know.
strange.
I know. Yeah, this is a crazy year. And a lot has changed in my business too, right? Because when I think about this episode in particular, right, you took FCA Fitness Coach Academy. And if any of you are
Yeah.
new to me or the offer, you might be like, what is that? Is it something different? And so I own IFCA Impact Fitness Coaching Academy, but prior to owning that business, FCA was my flagship program, which now all of the IP is inside of IFCA. So if you hear David saying FCA or you hear me saying that, it's all synonymous at this point. But just to give a little background on David before he gives you more of the details that I will let him say, David was a personal trainer, had been doing it for about a decade, had gone up and down with revenue, really was never able to make enough to truly build a business, to truly have financial freedom, was, I don't even want to say living paycheck to paycheck, which again, you can give the details there. But fast forward to a year, and because it hasn't been that long that we've worked together, right? A little over a year.
Yeah, a year and a month or so.
Mm-hmm. And you built a multi six-figure coaching business. So have you said that out loud yet, by the way, that you like run a multi six-figure coaching business?
I haven't said the multi. That's strange. I've said the six figure for a minute, but because that was a cool thing to start saying. But
Yeah,
yeah,
now it's
the
multi.
multi give me some chills. It's cool.
Yeah, like it's fucking sick. So let's kind of start there, right? People who don't know you,
Yeah.
go back to the Raj Gym, day in, day out, paycheck to paycheck. Just what was life? What was money? What was the bank account like?
God. Uh, I mean, I always knew what was in my bank account because I had to check it before I bought anything, like without a doubt. Um, yeah, so like around a year and a half ago, I was just, yeah, like surviving is like the best way I could put it. Just kind of like trying my best to make everything work, but it wasn't working, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, it was just all referrals, all word of mouth. People came to me, great. But if not, I had no idea like how to scale, what to do, where to go from here. I've been doing this full time almost 10 years now, and like part time 20, but I remember I had a conversation with my therapist, of all people, a couple of years ago, and she was like, well, what's next? How do you make more money? How do you grow? And I was just like, I have no idea. Like I know it's probably online focused, that makes more sense, but I just had no idea what to do, and so it was just always like, I got paid, I'd pay off month old to a month old bills and then have new ones pop up, so it was just this like crazy survival feeling, like I just had to do what I had to do to try to make it work, but I had no idea what to do, if that makes sense.
Out of curiosity, what were your rates back then for personal training?
Um, $65 an hour for in person, and then I was charging $200 a month for online.
Okay. If
So
you like got an online client, I guess.
yeah, I mean, yeah, if I could talk someone into it, kind of thing, or like if an in person wanted to switch to that or something, yeah, I had no way of getting new clients or all that.
So I'm curious because I know you know other people that are successful in the industry. You probably were like looking at things on social media. You've been trying for a long time. So, like, at what point did you realize working harder wasn't the answer?
It was actually like Cody, one of your clients. I had known of him relatively and knew his wife. I'd worked with her with posing with some clients. And yeah, he was a few levels below me in my eyes, years ago. And then I noticed like his content was really taking off and like he was just posting all this stuff and seemed like he was really like turned a corner all of a sudden. And so I just asked him, I was like, bro, like what have you been doing? And I was actually trying to get him to hire him. I was like, I mean, can you help me? I don't know. And he immediately was just like, I don't think I can help you. You need to call Taylor, kind of thing. And uh, I don't know why, just the way he said it, I was like, yeah, okay. Like, because, there's tons of business coaches and all that kind of stuff all over the place, and you get hit up by them and you don't know what's real and what isn't and who to trust. And, I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way about online coaches, but, just having like that one person kind of validate it for me. And then of course, like when I started speaking to you, like the way you sold me and the way you wouldn't give me your rates. That was my first. I went through our messages, and my first message to you was like, "Hey, what are your rates?" And then you walked around it, and sent
Didn't
me
you just look
podcasts.
at those like last week?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I did. It's a
Like,
weird feeling.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say because you brought that up recently, and I'm just curious if there was anything that you said that kind of brought you back to that moment of when you like were just so in the thick of it.
Yeah, I think like I had just kind of given up. It was like, I mean, I knew this was my passion. I knew I was good at coaching, but it was like, I just didn't think I could make it work genuinely. Yeah, but I was just like, didn't know what else to do. So I was like, I'll keep trying, and yeah, like it was a scary feeling, being in that place, but it was also like I had reached enough of a rock bottom to where I was able to surrender to like asking for help, if that makes sense. So like even though it was a very unfortunate place to be in, I also think I needed that, in order to like accept help and invest in it, and take that risk, with you.
I will say too, I recorded a podcast recently about
Mm.
just when to actually quit the job. And I know that's not what we're talking about, but how so many people think that starting the business is their rock bottom, when in reality, you're already living your rock bottom. So the worst case is you try and it doesn't work out. But all that to say is, what I really love about you and your story is we've spent a lot of time already talking about how you were making about $1,000 a month, struggling to pay bills, debt was probably
Yeah.
racking up, right? How did you end up getting the resources to invest? And even if that weren't a case, I'm curious to know, looking back now, what would you maybe have done to get scrappy to make it work?
Yeah, so I ended up having to get a loan from my parents. My father helped me out with it, so I'm very grateful I had that opportunity, and everything and support with this. But um, I would have done a firm most likely, or a credit card, or like a bank loan, kind of thing. I mean, yeah, we just made it work, So I mean, in my eyes, it was the same kind of loan. It was still like very stressful, and it was almost worse with my dad because like if I can't do this, then I'm fucking him over, just didn't want to do that, of course. But yeah, again, it was just, I was in that place where it was just like, I got to do something, you know, like, got to pull the trigger with it, But yeah, I mean, I think like just the way you spoke to me and sold me, and you jumped on our call, for the sales call, which was like kind of the nail in the coffin for me, so to speak. I just really respected that, and the way you mentioned how you felt like the need to, just made me feel so more supported, and I felt that support, and it's grown, this whole year, without a
Yeah,
doubt. So it's been cool.
love. So let's talk about the initial 4 months when you're an FCA, right? I already know that you didn't have regrets. You were getting results quickly, right? But that's
Yeah,
always the
yeah, pretty quick.
question of like, how
Mm.
quickly did you A, see results, B, get your investment back, right? Like, talk to me about what that first week and month felt like.
I think it was fortunate that just the place I was at, because like I just dove into it. I was like, I gotta like absorb all this. And I've told you this on one of our calls before, but like I remember the DM outreach module was like one of the first ones, and the one of those first videos, I think I was listening to it in the car, and you were like, okay, cold DMs are a requirement with this. And I was just like, oh fuck, what the hell did I get myself into? I was like, oh no, I can't do that. And like there have been a lot of things like that during this process where in my head, like 5 years ago, I just would have written off and wouldn't have been able to like commit myself to, but I think I just failed enough times that I was like, why not embrace this, and just like obviously this is working for people, and like it was really cool being in FCA because like, there were people near the end of it who had like these success stories, and all of that. And I saw how much they grew during that period. So I was like, I can't argue with the fact that this works, you know? But yeah, like, so I think I just kind of like dove into it. And when I first started all the cold DMs with the way you suggested, reach out to my current audience, all that kind of stuff, it kind of came in quick, and like that was a very reassuring feeling, and I just followed your scripts and said what you told me to and all that kind of stuff. And it just started coming in and working. And I think I got up to from like 1,000 to 5,000 a month within the first month, I think, and so that just really solidified it for me, and like, again, I couldn't argue with it. It's like, if this is working, I got to figure out a way to make it comfortable for me, and like cold DMs are still frustrating, but way easier. And, like I just have better systems and like, it just all feels more normal, if that makes sense.
I think the DMs are just always a pain in the ass. Even with ads, they eventually become a pain in the ass. Like it's just talking with people that don't actually want
Uh,
to invest, but you can't avoid that. But it's funny you
yeah.
mentioned because we will dive into not the DMs in particular, but things that I quote quote made you do that you maybe didn't want to do. But you ended up hitting 10K in recurring, really 12K in recurring in your first 4 months. And
Yeah. Correct.
you know, when you saw your first five-figure month, walk me through that feeling.
Well, I mean, even to this day, it doesn't feel real. It just like it feels temporary, in my head. Like it's just not gonna continue, somehow. But it's continued to progress, and it's continued, if that makes sense. But yeah, it didn't feel real. And I had a handful of, 10K months over the last 8 years, yeah, a very small handful. But it was $0 of income for the next few months, kind of thing. So I think in my head, that's more of what it was, So I'm also getting over some of those, like, and we were working on this, some of like the weird financial kind of things I've gotten used to because I was broke for so long, and like struggling for so long. It was like whatever came out, bills wise, that's where it went, So yeah, it's been an adjustment, but real world problems, and I'm grateful for it, to have to like learn and grow in different ways, you know.
Absolutely.
Um,
What would you say? I know those first 4 months were, it's almost like we just put you in this incubator and just like a test tube and just like a throwing new stuff at you every week, which probably feels a little fast. But, you know, can you walk me through what the support felt like as you were
mm,
going through that? Because you
yeah.
mentioned a lot of new things, potentially some friction. You were seeing results, but like, how was the support in FCA?
Yeah, so I've done a handful of different modules over the years and things, courses, and stuff like that. And it's been very hard for me. I'm very ADHD. It's hard for me to like really like dive into it like I did with FCA. And it's funny you say that because I feel like the support is why I was able to, like with a lot of those courses and modules, it's like, yeah, somebody might message you once a week if they do, and they'll answer your questions if you ask them, but they probably don't even know your name, kind of thing. And I actually talked with Lindsay the other day. She was my coach in FCA, and like she was congratulating me and stuff, and I was like, I mean, it's because of you. I remember like especially those first few check-ins, like I remember her voice, just like speaking to me, because like I was just in that place where like I needed to hear some of the things she was saying. And it's like you guys are very good at like celebrating milestones while continuing to push you forward. And I feel like that's a very important part of just life in general, is like celebrating wins but not getting complacent too at the same time. But I actually read something once, was like, if you don't take the time to celebrate wins, your brain doesn't fully register it, in the same way. So like it gets to where you stop winning as much because you don't really like get to enjoy that serotonin dopamine kind of hit from it, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, the sport's just amazing. And then like, and I was surprised with how much you replied to stuff and hit me up and posted about me and stuff like that. And like, I remember we were talking on Instagram one time for like a minute, and you were like, "By the way, message me in Slack too." Yeah, by the way, you got to do that, But the fact that you like make sure to respond to people and check in and all that, like, I don't know how you have the time and energy for it, honestly. But you figure it out somehow. You're like,
That's a new episode. That can't be this one.
yeah,
But
yeah. Like, what drugs are you taking to help?
actually, none. Actually,
Yeah, I know.
we're
Yeah,
just
it's
raw
frustrating. I
dogging
know.
life, literally.
Yeah.
Just raw dogging life. But
This is my third one of these,
I'm dead. I'm dead. If you can't, if you're listening to this and not watching on YouTube, he just was like raising an Alani now. So
Yeah.
anyway, but it's good that you mentioned that because, and you mentioned the coach by name because what I love is the fact that I've built and have now acquired a team of coaches that are so incredibly fantastic. And we
Yeah.
can get into more of that. But I mean, even as you grow into Path to 4%, it's the same thing. Like it's like, holy shit, it's not Taylor and Co. It's Taylor and Kevin. And and you're like name these people are super valuable to you, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So let's kind of before we it's kind of like the last monetary chat before we talk about kind of your evolution, which I think is really important because we can spend a lot of time talking about money and goofing off about DM tactics and this and that. And I can talk to you about how FCA and IFCA are the best things ever, and so can you. But ultimately, people want to know like how this actually worked in practicality because people can get a blueprint and not get results. And so the last question I want to ask you in terms of monetary is walk me through kind of the last 2 to 3 months going through like revenue MRR and kind of landing on your best cash month to date so far, your current MRR, so we can kind of see where you're at 1 year later.
Cool. Yeah. So 2 or 3 months ago, I was around 16, 17,000 in MRR a month. And I've grown it up to around 26,000 now. So in the last like 3 months, I've added 10K a month. My total cash collected for like 2026 was so far it's been 110,300, which that was my year last year. It was less than that, you know. So in the last year to date, 212,000, which that feels weird. I don't know. It's
That's
just
the first
crazy.
time David's ever said that out loud.
Yeah, I wrote it down today. I had to figure it out.
But like
uh,
you're on track, you're literally on track to hit a 250,000 this year easily.
that's crazy.
Like has
Yeah,
that
no, doesn't. It's surreal is the best like word for it. For real. Like yeah, it's just beyond surreal. It's such a cool feeling to like go somewhere and buy something and I'll check my bank account and like move money sometimes, like before I get gas, I'd have to like move money from savings or something. Like it's strange, but I'm very, very grateful for it for sure.
and it's so
So
cool because you've literally just like put in effort, like no ads, no going viral.
no, yeah,
Like
no ads. Yeah. I just started boosting some stuff like the last couple weeks. Yeah. So
like after your best month ever. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
that month felt crazy. Yeah, so my best month so far is what 32.8. Um, that's just insane. So
Well, you're gonna
like
tell me the same thing in like 3 weeks, so don't worry about it.
I know, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be like, and then I'm gonna be stressed out if I only make 32.8.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
like
that's my
just new
favorite.
problems. Yeah,
That's my favorite when, we just came back from our retreat, right? And I always like to remind all my clients that they're in such a it's such a wild delusional room. Like you're never going to be in a room where everybody around you is casually making 6 and 7 figures in a coaching
oh
business.
yeah,
Yet we're all like MRR dropped by 2,000. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
what was your highest cash month ever? Just curious from personal training. Like if you remember.
I'd say absolute highest of 10 or 11, like absolute. Yeah. And like
Yeah.
again, that was for like 6 months worth of people paying sometimes. More like three, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think what's really cool about you too is I know I keep harping on this like organic. It's not that I don't love paid, but I love
Yeah.
that my clients are hitting their best cash months ever, and over 70% of your best cash month is recurring revenue. So hypothetically, you could make no sales and make 26,000 in July. And that's
Oh
sick.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I had, yeah. No, I mean it's great. Like in January, I had that ice storm, didn't have power for a week and all that kind of stuff and wasn't able to make sales and stuff. And like, but I saw money coming in, like I had a few grand come in that week that I didn't have power, and like that would have been normally the kind of situation where like I was out, a couple thousand and didn't know what to do about it, so, and like that kind of stuff happens, where life happens, and so having that like reoccurring revenue, like, has been amazing.
Now let's talk about some challenges. Let's talk about some shit that's hard because
Lots of hard stuff.
there was a period where I was literally just like, I feel like fighting you, in your terms, yelling at you, which somehow I always get caught yelling at you. You're like the client that someone's always recording me yelling at you while birds are chirping at
It's
a
the
board.
tattoos. Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
But, there was a period where, for lack of better terms, I was like, get your head out of your ass. Like, you really had to grow as a leader because what always happens is the money comes before the leadership comes. It's always what happens. And so I want you to kind of paint a picture for me of like the really valuable lessons you've had to learn, who you've had to become to hold this kind of money, which was not you a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been telling people these last few months, like, the moment I got the most out of my investment with you was like that month in January, where like, I did back off sales and I was kind of getting my head about things. And I think my MRR dropped to around, 12-ish, or so, which is still amazing, but, it was definitely very stressful, losing money. But yeah, like just having you like to tell me to get my head out of my ass and to like tell me to wake up a little, and you validated what I was going through. You're like, I totally get it. That sucks. I'm really sorry. Um, but you were also like some come to Jesus with me, and you're like, I don't really love the people you're surrounding yourself with and like this kind of stuff. And I remember that in particular. You're just like, I mean, that sucks, but I'm kind of worried about the people you're surrounding yourself with, and the fact that like you're backing off and taking your foot off the pedal, and like that's not cool. And that woke me up, and kept me on my shit. And I definitely took a bit of a hit, but I would have taken a huge hit, and that was a big cycle for me over the years. It was like grinding and working my ass off for like 6 months, but kind of like not seeing the return from it that I wanted. And then kind of getting my head, getting burnt out and getting exhausted and just kind of crashing, and backing off for a few months. And that was like my cycle for like 8 years, And so, um, I would say like, without a doubt, what has helped me the most with working with you has been keeping me on my shit when I want to fall off, and like getting me out of like those weird habits and routines that I got into, and so, and it's made it so much easier and more comfortable kind of, I mean, it was very uncomfortable to have some of those conversations and to like realize I'd wake up a little and keep my shit going, and all that, and what was genuinely required of me, to be the business owner I wanted to be, and like leader I wanted to be and team leader and all that, and you helped me get a setter and all that kind of stuff around that time or a little before, and I wasn't doing any calls with him, wasn't even checking on his KPIs and stuff like that, and you're like, I want you 3 calls a week and like be up the dude's ass and like all this shit. And I was just like, in my head, I was like, that sucks. That's way more work and I'm overwhelmed and stressed out. But like, I knew like doing what you told me works, so like it was just one of those things where I can't question, all the people you've helped and like how much like all this works for me and for other people. So I was just like, I gotta fucking do this,
How
But
has
yeah, just having that was a
how has
big,
the
big,
growth like impacted you in your relationships outside of business? Because from the outside looking in, now that we've worked together for as long as we have, and obviously the proximity is much higher in 4%, right? I don't think that there's really a week. And if there is, you're right, it was in January where I hunted your ass down. You like went MIA for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, where the fuck
yeah,
are you?
yeah,
Because that's the thing though, like I know y'all so well. And again, this isn't like a selling point on me right now, but just transparently, like there's so many mentorships you can join where you don't have direct access to the founder, you don't have direct
no,
access. And I think that that connection that we have, like I know you guys so well that when we have retreats and events, it feels like we're just hanging out with family,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And I want to know how this has impacted your personal relationships because we've worked together long enough to where I know your bad habits. I know when things start to slip, but also you're comfortable enough with me at this point to own your shit, to be vulnerable, and that's what makes this so much easier.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I always tell like my coaching clients, like our relationship's the most important part of this process, and like I really learned to see that with you. And like you were saying with other mentors, like I'd only get hit up if a payment didn't go through, or something. Yeah, that was about it. But like you've taken time to like learn us and learn our lives and what we need. And every time you bring something up, I'm like, how'd you know I need to talk about that? like with the finances stuff recently, I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah, like relationships, like I kind of mentioned, was like, I was dating a girl for a few months, like when we first met and all that kind of stuff, and I knew it wasn't right for me. I was holding on to it because I just, I'm getting to the age where I just kind of want to settle down and have that life. But I knew like that relationship wasn't helping me grow and improve as a person. And like when I would ghost you for a little, you're just like when you said that like you're surrounding yourself with people, or I don't like the way you're surrounding yourself with people that aren't helping improve your life. I was just like, oh fuck yeah, like I don't really know how you knew that, but it's just, we didn't really talk about all that stuff. I just told you I was going through a breakup, and you're just like, okay, I can tell this bitch, you're good for you. I was like, okay, well, yeah, and like so, it's made me like much like more aware of my relationships and who I surround myself with, and like the energy I put in the world and accept from other people, and stuff, and like being like on our retreats and like group calls and stuff, like having that energy and having those people like around me and stuff was newer for me, and having that community and stuff. And like just being around people that all care about like growing and learning and improving and like want that for each other, like genuinely, like I can hit up anybody in 4% and ask them for a favor and they'll give it to me, and I do the same for them, and so that's really cool, but I think it's made me much more picky, about who I allow in my life because I've seen how much it can impact me and stuff, and especially the busier I get and the more I make and stuff, it's like the less time I have to fuck around with stuff like that, So it's made me much more aware of like my energy and my time and like where I put it, all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah. Question, what does your dad think now of you
oh,
and
I mean, he's
Beth?
just he leaves me alone now. He's just like, cool, you're good. Yeah, so that's nice. Instead of feeling like he's got to like always help me out, and like make sure I'm not gonna die or something, But no, yeah, I mean, it's been really cool. I mean, they're getting old, of course, but I can tell it's like taking a weight off their shoulders, because for the longest time, especially after my divorce, they were just kind of having to hold me together, and pick up pieces here and there, So I've been very grateful to be able to let them do their thing, and enjoy their life and stuff, So.
Do you think that, so I mean, now that you have what I would consider financial freedom, and sure, you and I absolutely have our sidebar chats going, but you are absolutely consistently crushing it.
Yeah.
So, how does it feel now that you have financial freedom?
I mean, like it's funny because it's almost like I have more time and energy now. Even though like I'm making more, it's like it all feels like I have more direction, more focus with it, and like I know my next steps. If that makes sense. It was like just the unknown, and like even though I didn't really have anything to do because I didn't know what to do, so I had a lot of free time, and stuff. But just kind of like knowing the steps to take, and like what to do next, has made a big difference, I guess.
What would you say to the person who's listening to this and is wondering if there's going to be any kind of customization?
Like for them.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean everybody's an individual, and I know you see that. It's just like everyone needs something different, in life in order to grow and learn, I think, and so, and I think you've like really kind of nailed that where like you can just, and I think you're very good at reading people too, and very self-aware, and stuff. So I think it's just, yeah, it's cool. It's cool to be like around people like you, even that just kind of like understand what people need in order to like grow with this.
What So in terms of like, long-term mentorship and staying with somebody, like what has kind of kept you, obviously the money is great, right? But people can make great money and then go to another mentor. So what's kept you here?
I mean, the consistent support and like you grow and evolve with us. It's like our conversations now are significantly different than they were a year ago. And so like you adapt as we adapt. If that makes sense. But I mean, just the like our personal relationship, has kept me around for sure. Like I know I couldn't find this connection with somebody as easily by any means. And it would take another year, me spending time with somebody. And same with like, prep coaches. People jump around to different people and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they always suggest stick with the same person so they can learn you better and learn what you need from this, and everything. If you have a good coach. And so I think with this, like with mentoring, I think that's an important part of the process. You need to commit time to it because like I said, I would have fallen off in January, and I wouldn't be making this money this month, and like your payment in January was tough, because in my head I was like, I'm falling off, I'm messing up, like, and I'm still paying for this, but I'm not using it. But you used it and like came after me, and made sure I was doing what I needed to, and so
I
like
told you, I yell at
yeah.
David, I yell at him. So
Yeah. I need that. I need that. And that's the thing is other people might not need that. And you wouldn't give it to them. But I do. So you figured out what I need in order to like hear you. And I tell people that a lot. Like I can hear things from you that I just can't hear from other people. Like parents, friends, stuff like that. It's like you're an outside objective opinion, but you're also emotionally invested in this too in different ways.
absolutely, absolutely. What last kind of question, what would you say to any personal trainer that's listening and is wanting to grow the online business, but is just nervous to kind of invest in somebody, or they're really skeptical because, like you said, there's a ton of people out there. Anything you'd say to them?
I mean, I'd say I absolutely understand the fear, but one thing I've really learned to appreciate this year is like just taking messy action and like pulling the trigger, and like uh I've talked to a decent amount of people interested in working with you and IFCA and FCA and all that kind of stuff. And every single person, I'm like, no question, just pull the trigger. Like you need to just do it, and like commit to it. And I warn people like, this is work, it takes time and effort, and like you got to put it in, you can't just expect to like have someone hand you stuff and all of a sudden you're making a bunch of money. Like that's just not how life is, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, there's just like no question. This is probably one of the best decisions I made of my life. Definitely best investment without a doubt so far. So yeah,
Love.
like just pull the trigger. Like you just got to do it. Like if like this is something you want to make a career, and you want to be able to support yourself and your family long term and have something consistent, like you need help with it, in my opinion. So
Boom. That's it. Love it. So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I talked to so many personal trainers who just are stuck on the gym floor, stuck doing early morning, stuck with no shows, stuck with cancellations, and they have like no money to invest, so to speak, right? I'm not here to like, open your wallet, but you're just such a great example of somebody who also felt the same way and just found a way to fucking make it happen. And like you said, if you hadn't had those resources from family, you would have made it work elsewhere,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
that's how I was too. Like my credit was not great. I had debt. I got multiple credit cards out to pay for my first mentor, which felt super uncomfortable, but
Mhm.
you can't outsave,
Mhm.
you can't outsave yourself.
No, no, absolutely. Yeah. Like, and that's one thing about like, I don't have a whole lot of empathy when people tell me they just can't make it work, even though they need to. I'm like, when I have something I got to figure out, I figure it out, like, and you kind of have to be that way. And so like, if you feel like there's something you can't invest in at the moment, you can make it work, and like, what are you waiting for? Like for life to get worse and harder and for you to be more stressed out, like, holy shit. Like, I did that for 8 years, and like tried to keep doing it on my own, like white knuckling it and pulling teeth and stuff. And like, I wish I met you 10 years ago, without a doubt. Like not that you were doing this 10 years ago, but you probably still could have helped me pretty significantly.
Hey, random girl
But
on TV, can you like help me
yeah,
with this business? I mean, maybe, but
yeah,
no,
you probably would have.
who knows? But it's been so cool to see your growth, and like I said, the money just showcases what you've been able to do. But the fact that we're having this conversation, you left FCA almost a year ago. and you are running a multi six-figure coaching company. And that's what I love about this is it's literally the proof because my least favorite thing on the internet right now is people that are collecting testimonials within 30 days of a business mentorship and then that person is in my DM 6 months later.
Uh, yeah. Yeah,
You
anybody can
know?
get a couple piffs, yeah. It's like making this consistent and like something you build a life with. That's a whole different thing. And like, yeah, like FCA really like jump started me with it. But if I didn't continue as your private client, no way I would have been able to get where I'm at. And no way, I don't believe I would have maintained it. Like I needed that continued support, without a doubt. And I don't feel like many people are different than that, unless you just are really a hustler. But if you've been doing this for a minute, you would have already made that work on your own if you could.
And as you
So
said, like, I mean, I've been with my mentor for 4 years, right? Because every level unlocks new problems that you don't know how to solve. Like every single level. And they
yeah,
they change and evolve and you change and evolve. And that's why I love doing kind of reflections because
yeah,
you and I are going to meet at a retreat a year from now and you're going to be like, "Man, remember when that was my problem and now like I had no idea this was even in front of me." It's just
yeah.
it's so crazy. Nothing grows you and morphs your character like entrepreneurship.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it is daily therapy
Mhm.
unintentionally, you
Yeah.
know?
Like
Uh,
daily, yeah.
it literally is
Continued.
daily
Yeah.
therapy. And,
Yeah.
it's the people that are your friends when you start the business are likely not the friends when you have success in the business. Maybe
Yeah.
some of them will be, but usually they're not. And that's why I think like your kind of kick in the ass at the beginning of this year was so critical because I've seen the pattern enough times to where you could say nothing to me and I'm like, I know exactly what's happening. When somebody leans out, I'm leaning further in. So let's
Yeah.
troubleshoot this shit. But
Yeah.
no, I am
Absolutely.
super proud of you. Um, if somebody does not know me other than social media, what would you like to tell them about me?
Oh man. I mean, you're cool as fuck, but like impressive, like genuinely just like it's just your work ethic and workflow and the fact that you take care of yourself and you maintain a decent routine with it, like it's very impressive, but I would just say like you just care, and like I could just see that from like day one, even with you like responding on Instagram when you're not supposed to, and like not really giving me shit for it, and like checking in with me when you didn't have to, and stuff like that, like there's something about you. And even our call earlier today, like my friend was in the room and she was like, that chick seems cool as fuck. Like, it's really cool you met her. And I was like, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, trust me. It's like, yeah. But yeah, just like the way you care about us is a big deal, and like I feel like we're all that way with our clients and stuff, and we just vibe off each other and kind of get it, and stuff. And like the community you built is really impressive. That's a very hard thing to do. I'm working on it still, and so like, yeah, it's just, but like, I mean, you're just down to earth too with it, like you never like know you're a millionaire meeting you until you just talk to you for a minute and then you would, kind of thing. But like, yeah, you just have like really cool vibes with it. And like, I think you were just made for this, somehow. It's just like part of you.
Man, you could have gone so many different directions with sarcasm or humor, and you went like so nice with that. I'm telling you, all my
Uh,
clients with neck tats are low-key teddy bears. So
hey, oh yeah,
that's
yeah,
the gist.
yeah.
But anyway,
Mhm.
all right, David. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, and I can't wait to
Appreciate you.
see what we do in the next year, man.
Oh yeah, man, it's gonna be big shit. I'm excited.